Sadistic Penguin Studios presents the At the Show podcast with Tom Yumper Garcia.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
And Tony Chalsa Burt.
I don't know this industry jargon, YP, MP, whatever, okay? All I know is that I cannot get a record contract. We cannot get a record contract unless I take these tapes.
It's almost time, so grab a drink, get your popcorn ready, and join the film discussion with two guys from Chicago talking movies.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the At the Show podcast, presented to you by Sadistic Penguin Studios. I'm with your co-host, Tom Yumper Garcia, and I'm with my other co-host, Tony the Sugar Baggy Burt. How are you doing today, my friend?
I am doing good because we are here tonight talking movies, which means that, well, you get to put everything else aside and just dig into some good flicks. Unfortunately, it's kind of for a little bit of a sad reason. Or a lot of a sad reason, I should say.
Yeah, somebody who's kind of been a staple of Hollywood, who's done so many things in his career, very long career that is, was the great Robert Redford, who passed away on September 16th, which I believe was Monday, at the age of 89, if not mistaken. Monday, oh, it was Tuesday at the age of 89. A giant in the industry, Tone. We're going to dedicate this episode to him, giving everyone each of our 10 favorite Robert Redford films. Just a great actor, human being, everything. And we'll deep dive into that in a little bit before we get into the Robert Redford stuff, though. How was your week, my man? Like, anything new happening?
Well, just getting things accomplished and becoming, stronger, lifting weights every day, getting strong. How about you?
This has probably been the most frustrating week of my work life, but
I wanted to say that, okay? I really wanted to say it too, but I understand. Let me just start right there.
Yeah, so both of us had a pretty shitty week at work. I'm just happy it's Friday, man. It's Friday. It's the end of, the middle of September.
Your week kind of starts off with, even on a Tuesday, which is the beginning of the week, Robert Redford dying. It's just going to probably go down from there.
Yeah.
That's how it kind of felt. It was like sometimes when that kind of stuff happens, it all correlates, but it's funny that Sam says that joke right there because I kind of said something like that to my wife the other day. I just put some letters, said a Redford. I think I said like green Chevy or something, but that's funny.
That's funny. But the show must go on. Let's go get into it and start with our first segment of what we've been watching, my friend.
That's a me, and also. What were you just watching?
So what were you watching this week, my friend?
With Halloween right around the corner, everyone's favorite holiday, including myself, we were just starting to dig into some Halloween movies here around the house. Couple of my favorites for a couple different reasons. We'll start with Stepfather 3. I am a huge fan of the Stepfather 1, 2, and 3, and the remake's pretty good too for its own thing. Why do I like these Stepfather movies? Because they are extremely ridiculously silly. And I love silly horror. That's probably one of my favorites. It's like, it's meant to be scary, but it's just so ridiculous that you have a good time and you laugh. This movie came out in 1992. I remember seeing it quite a lot, like on cable. I see this movie probably 30 times before I even seen the first one, which is weird because I've ran into very few people who has even seen this movie, let alone back when it was released. I like just the character. I like the idea that this guy just strolls into town and he just pretty much he's off the whole family in another town, but now he's in another town and he's smiling and he's happy and the women fall for him and he's got a new stepson. just a really ridiculous movie series. In the first couple, Terry O'Quinn played the stepfather. If you are familiar with Lost, he was in that. In this movie, Robert Whiteman takes over as the lead as stepfather, and I think he does a pretty ridiculous job. The storyline is ridiculous because right away the son knows that this guy's like up to no good, but it's funny that the adult mother does not, so she kind of falls in love with him, and it all goes awry from there. But you ever see any of the Stepfather movies?
I saw the first one.
It's honestly, it's they're kind of like remind me a lot of like those sequels to Psycho. They're not necessarily great, but if you're just sitting around on a Friday night or have them on in the background, you're going to hear some pretty ridiculous things, especially as a fan of horror. But the first one is good in its own right. But
yeah, the first one's good.
So I watched Stepfather, and then from Stepfather, I watched a little movie that is very rarely talked about from 1981 called Ghost Story. It stars probably some of the greatest film actors of the 1950s and before, with Fred Astaire, Melvin Douglas, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., and John Houseman. The movie is pretty cool because what it is these four guys come back together as old men to tell a story that happened when they were young. And pretty much you get a ghost that ends up haunting them. And it's actually pretty scary. And it's honestly a little bit, I like its practical effects. The special makeup was designed by makeup artist Dick Smith. There's a lot of really, really good just some practical effects in it, which makes it really, really cool and interesting. But the reason I talk about this movie is because it kind of floats under the radar. Ebert gave it a favorable review. Check it out if you get a chance, if you have not.
I have seen this one. I think this is like one of Melvin Douglas's last films.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would go on to pass. A lot of the older actors in there, like you said, Fred Astaire's in there. Decent film. It doesn't get enough love. Good pick, my friend.
What have you been watching, my friend?
So to go back off what we watched last week, which was The Conjuring 2, I talked to our buddy Spags, and he sent me the list of the Conjuring movies, how to watch them in order. Now, there are 9 Conjuring movies. So he told me to start with The Nun, which I went and watched. And it was bad. It just I gave it a chance. Wasn't really that scary. It grossed a lot of money. I can see why people liked it. I think the actress who plays the nun is great. I love the makeup they give her. I just didn't think it was too, it was like scary. It wasn't as campy for a horror B movie that I love, or like maybe a Chud, a Chud's like a B horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like that to where I enjoyed it that much, and it wasn't scary enough to where I'm like, oh man, it was just meh. I didn't really like it, but I gave it a shot. Then I'm like, well, let me try a sequel. Even though I watched it out of order, I tried the sequel. It was a little better, but not by much. And it's kind of disappointing because I keep hearing such good things about this Conjuring series, and it's kind of disappointing, man. Like I want them to do well, and like both movies made very, very good money. They I think they both doubled or tripled their box office, but they just they weren't that great. They're like in the 5 range, and when I was looking at their ratings, they're both in like around the 5-6 range, which is not that great, man. Have you seen any of these movies?
Well, to be fair, I guess, which is really funny, my HBO told me that I watched The Nun before, but I guess it was a time I forgot because I was going to watch it. I put it on last night because I'm saying, I seen you watch these movies. Now I want to be part of this conversation tonight. That's what I told myself. So I start watching the movie. Let me just start by telling you, I'm a huge Damien Bashir fan. I think he's awesome. Mm-hmm. And when it started playing and I'm like, he's in this. All right. This is going to be good. And even Vera Farmiga's sister, Tessa Farmiga, I'm like, oh, okay. But probably after about 20 minutes, honestly, the first 20 minutes, I thought maybe we were onto something. Maybe I'm like, maybe I missed this one. And then after about 40 minutes, I got to be honest with you, I started to drift. And then after an hour, I put X-Files on. So like, and to be fair, I think it's what you said. It doesn't really meet. It's somewhere in between. It's not scary. I thought it kind of could be at the very beginning, but then it kind of gets a little silly and off the rails when they go and pick up that third guy. And it's just like,
Frenchie.
yeah, and he's like hitting on Tessa Farmiga, and I'm like, this isn't what we're trying to do here. But you know what I mean? A lot of people like this Conjuring series. I'm just not. I'm trying to get into it, but maybe it's my second Lord of the Rings. I don't know.
Yeah, that Frenchie guy was weird. I don't know. That's the thing too. It didn't really. It tried to push the a story for these characters, and it left me not really caring too much about the characters. Like I don't know if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah.
I think in horror you have to have some, I guess, feelings towards a character, whether it be the killer or the evil entity, or even the people that are being hunted. Just for example, Michael Myers, or Laurie Strode. You felt bad for Laurie Strode. Like you were like, oh man, is he gonna get her? And of course, I'm speaking of it like one of the best slashers ever made. But in those films, you have a character that resonates with you. And in this film, I didn't really have anybody that resonated with me, and it looked like it was really campy. And like right when they meet the nun, not the actual demon nun, but the nun, when they go into the area and there's that nun sitting in black. I mean, I'm like, you should know that this person's not good. Like, that
Well, I
just
mean,
speaks.
at the beginning,
yeah.
when Damien Bashir goes to see Tessa Farmiga, and he's like, we're going to be going to this part of the world, and she's like, I've never been there before. I don't think I'm qualified. He's like, yeah, you know what? I think you'll be okay for this. So we're just
that
keep you
too.
along with. But it was like, oh, okay, could have wrote that part a little bit better than the script.
I
But
just think their writing was lazy.
when, if I remember correctly, again, that's there's, and I know you're not into this, but I know if I said to you, give me one Saturday of your life, we could have written a better than none. Just let me talk and you type, and we would give it in, and we would become way better, and this movie would have been a huge success, or vice versa. You know what I mean? Like, because there's just these things that are missing from these horror movies that seem so easy to tweak or fix, but we're left with some of this. But there's like parts of these Conjuring movies that I see, and they just look visually so cool that maybe they're just parts of the movies that are cool. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think you're kind of wasting two good actresses in Tara and Vera Farmiga, and then you
Yeah.
have Patrick Wilson, I believe his name is, from The
Yeah.
Conjuring.
That's
And
right. His sisters in the other ones. I forgot
yeah,
about that. Yeah.
you're having these two actresses and they're good, and you have Patrick Wilson's good and good surrounding cast, and it's just like sometimes it's lazy writing, and I'm hoping it gets better. Um, this is not even my opinion on the Warrens, because the Warrens aren't even like really in this film. Like, it's a prequel, but it's just to me like, and I love horrible horror movies. Like I mean, look at the fucking 31 Days of Horror, and I watched horrible ones, and it just doesn't. This is like a real miss for me, and it's disappointing because I've heard so many people talk good about it.
It says in one review, it says the nun uses a mechanical approach toward installing fear rather than a more profound understanding of terror. And that's what it seems. The movie becomes mechanical as opposed to like, but what's weird though is, you say to yourself, okay, this movie is not good at all. And $366 million. Whoa.
Yeah,
That movie could have fed a lot of people. But that's just the way it is, I guess.
Yep, it's the way it is, man. That's the way the cookie crumbles, as Bruce Almighty would say.
No, yeah.
With that, though, that is what we've watched this week. Let us know what you've watched this week over at the At The Show pod on X, or let us know on their Facebook at Sadistic Penguin Studios, or on our website at sadisticpenguinstudios.com, or in the YouTube comments. Man, hope these Conjuring movies get better. That's all I gotta say.
That's all you can say.
But Mr. Tone, I know we're dealing with some, grief with what we're going to be talking about in a little bit, but while going over his excellent movies, but I want to cheer things up a little bit with this trivia question for the back of the VHS box for you. So let's get to that.
The bat, the VFX pops. The bat, the VFX pops. The bat of the VFX pops.
VHS boxes are falling all over.
Actually, that was going to be one of my, when I was doing the video for that, I was going to have something like that, but the song was so short, I had to make the clips of that. So here we go, Tone. This is a comedy movie. A suburban dad secretly lives as a male stripper to make ends meet, dragging his working class pals into the wildest talent show the UK's ever seen.
The Full Monty.
Yes, sir.
At first, you always there's one word you gave that made me then know what it was. It was the British thing. Because before that, I'm like, I am screwed. I'm like, what movie has strippers? It's a good movie. A lot of laughs.
The crazy thing is, I remember this being on like VHS tapes and, for the previews. And I always remember where like some guys like, well, show your talent. And some guy just unzips his pants. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And it was the Full Monty.
I went up in the attic last week, and for some unknown reason, I just have a box of empty VHS boxes, like Land Before Time. There's no movie. I don't know where the movies are. I guess at some point I was like, I'm just don't keep these boxes.
Ducky,
classic. Pizza Hut characters they gave away were great.
Yes. Let us know if you got that back of the VHS box trivia question. But now to get into, I guess, the meat and potatoes of the show here, Tone. Robert Redford, man. When was the first time you saw Robert Redford?
Oh, I think it had to be again, 12, 13, 14, somewhere around there probably. How about you?
I would say around 9 or 10. So probably, oh no, we're not that far apart, but probably 9 or 10 I saw him on TV on WGN after a Cubs game.
Oh,
yeah, on a WGN film. For those who don't know, who are not as old as me and you, which we're not really that old, but on the local TV stations, there used to be movies. I don't know if they still do those anymore. Do they? Like late night movies?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
They do.
Like it used to be a big thing, like on WGN or TNT, TBS.
Oh, they definitely do it on those channels. It's my that used to be my go-to, man.
USA Up All Night, Joe Bob Briggs, Monster Vision.
I always remember one time in college at like 3 a.m. I was just laying there in Dirty Harry, like the fourth one came on, and I stayed up watching it till like 5 a.m. I'm like, shit, I got class at 8. Fuck. But it was such a good movie. But those things are cool when you catch movies like that on TV.
Yeah, and that's how I sometimes discovered the movies that we talk about. Was doing that, just watching like those channels. We didn't have cable until I was like maybe 10 or 11.
We had it till I was 10 or 11, and then like we went through this real rough period where we just had like the basic shit. And then like I went to my friends' houses, but like we were always really big is just going to rent a lot of movies, and my friends had movies, and back then you just hook your VHS tape, which is funny because you do the back of the VHS box, but you take 2 VCRs, put them together, and just start copying movies. And I still have some of those somewhere. Those are cool to look at to say, oh man, I try to cram on 3 movies on 1 VHS cassette.
This makes me laugh, and it'll make my buddy laugh. I watched this. My buddy Johnny, who's my real close friend, his brother copied Super Mario Brothers.
Ooh.
He recorded it, and of course, him being a kid didn't know how to spell Super Mario Brothers, and he spelled it Supper Mario Brothers. So Johnny showed me the video, the tape, and it cracked me up. Supper Mario Brothers. So I had a big laugh about that one.
I got one for you one day. I still have it up there too. It's my dad obviously recorded off of TV. It was The Thing, but like he decorated the sidebar like with the thing and it like a cool the thing and all of this. It's like that's what was cool back in the days because they gave you those labels and then you put them on there and you could write the movies or you can get creative and put like a little picture. Like for his Sinbad one, he's got like a little Cyclops guy with an eyeball. So like it was always something to go
That's
to
pretty
the
cool.
movies. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what's cool about the back of the VHS box. Yump, it's just so encompassing.
Yep. One of the first movies that I remember watching was Pee-wee's Big Adventure. My aunts recorded it off WGN, and it had all the commercials. And I mean, I watched that thing till I was like in high school and later until I think we lost the tape. But I mean, it still had like the old Dunkin' commercials with the little guy pushing the big cup of Dunkin', like the American Airlines commercials. You want to get away? Southwest Airlines, want to get away? You remember those? I was like, wow. Sometimes I watch old Sox games on YouTube and they have those commercials in there, and I'm just like, wow, I remember these commercials.
It's great. What was the movie that you saw by Redford on WGN?
I'll let you guess.
Oh, you can say The Natural.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say that.
I watched
And that
it
was
with my
actually mine too, and we'll get to it later.
Yeah. But with that, celebrating the life of Robert Redford, let's go into his first film, my friend.
Anybody who was a captain is boss, sergeants are sport, privates pal. Playing soldiers, sir.
Hearts and minds.
Sir?
He's building a structure of loyalty. He's offering them self-respect in exchange for obedience. The general is building himself an army.
He can have the hearts and minds, sir. As long as we got him by the balls.
2001's The Last Castle. He played the role of General Irwin. It's directed by Rob Lurie, who did The Senior, The Outpost, Nothing But the Truth, and The Contender. It stars James Gandolfini along with Redford, Mark Ruffalo, Steve Burton, and Delroy Lindo. Oh man, I spelled Mark Ruffalo's name horribly in this. Mark Ruffalo. Ruffalo. Excuse that. But it had a budget of $72 million and a box office of $27 million, which to me was like, wow, it really flopped at the box office. To me, this is one of my last great favorite Robert Redford films. It's over 24 years ago. He was 65 during this movie. It came out. You would think it was a horrible premise, but it's actually pretty decent. Of basically a general who is sentenced to prison because he disobeyed an order that got soldiers killed, but he was rescuing people's lives. He's supposed to serve 10 years in a prison, the same prison that they used for the Green Mile. And the warden there, James Gandolfini, at first admires him and then realizes that this is a decorated general. He's never been in combat. He's a warden, and he kind of despises him out of respect he gains from the other fellow inmates. This is a military jail, and basically he leads an uprising. For one, excellent cast. I mean, you got James Gandolfini, you got Mark Ruffalo, you got Steve Burton, Delroy Lindo, you got Clifton Collins Jr. in this film to go along with Robert Redford. And I think the chemistry between Gandolfini and Redford is excellent. Gandolfini is a great character actor. Take out the Soprano stuff. He can always play that mad asshole. I mean, True Romance, perfect example. He can play, the sweet but psychopathic killer like he did in The Mexican, or even just a complete, psychopath along with True Romance. The movie 8mm. Just a great actor. Gone way too soon himself. He was reluctant to take this role because he didn't really know what it entailed for him, but he took it because of a long speech that was in the script, and then they ended up cutting that, which I thought was pretty funny. But this film, I think, highlights a lot of Redford's, strengths. He has a great cast to help him, and it still shows that at 65, Robert Redford still got it, man. He still got his fastball. And it shows a great young staff and crew to go along with him. Mark Ruffalo is very young in this film, and Delroy Lindo, should be getting an Oscar nod this year for Sinners, is in this film. Another one, a good actor that's very underrated. I really like this film. Tell me, what do you think about it?
again, really, really good movie. There wasn't really many bad movies I've ever seen Robert Redford. I mean, him himself is just such a good actor, and in this movie, and back to what you said about Gandolfini, I mean, he's great. Even if you ever get a chance, he does a really good movie with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. It's called Enough Said. It's like a romantic comedy. He can really stretch the boundaries, and you can see him do a good job here. I always like his character in this movie because he's like it's just his glasses, just his overall appearance. Because I love actors because I love Sopranos, you love Sopranos, but then to see this guy do this role around the same, it's admirable. And Mark Ruffalo too. I don't know if you know this, but shortly after this, he had a very serious brain surgery. Which is kind of crazy probably for him too, to look at his movies maybe before and after that. Just a really great performance in this, and yeah, it's an excellent pick.
Yeah, it's crazy. It was a benign brain tumor, but I know it's still crazy to even have any type of surgery like that. Yeah, like I said, the chemistry is really, really good. I just like the sparring of monologues and dialogue between them two.
Well, you brought up Delroy Lindo, and I was, you bring up Gandolfini, and they're both in Get Shorty, which is hilarious because at the end, the whole entire going over the edge, I think Delroy Lindo ends up going over the side, and like Gandolfini saves. I mean, they know each other. I always like that in movies when you're in a movie with somebody, and then they're in another movie, and they're in the same scene, and you know that they got to be friends. They talk. Because there's no reason that two people are ever in the same movie with each other unless it works and they're friends for some reason. That's just how it seems. So and Robert Redford, I mean, you got to admit at this point in his career, he's got some shots at who he gets to work with. So getting to, he probably watched Sopranos or heard Gandolfini and was like, I'd like to work with him too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and this is Sopranos, I believe, is just getting, it's 2001, so Sopranos came out in 99. It's just getting its impact run. So Gandolfini's probably getting all the offers he can get. And he was working with a hot actor at the time in Gandolfini.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen this one, I highly encourage you to watch it. It's one of like I said, it's typical Robert Redford, but it still shows that even at 65, he still got it. And to me, that's a big thing. Because you have some of the old actors that, Jack Nicholson, phenomenal actor. Even as he got older, he was as good. Jack Lemmon, but then you have actors who are just older and kind of just doesn't sometimes work out for them. I don't want to name anybody to
just to go off a little bit. It wasn't his greatest movie. But one of his last movies that Redford did, it was him and I think Sissy Spacek. I think it was called The Old Man and the Gun. And it's a quiet little bank robbery film, but you could still see, man. It's like Clint. You still see there's some glimmer there. You still see. It's like they say about Nolan Ryan. They say he could still throw 80 miles per hour. You know what I mean? Like, it's not there all the time, but you still see it, which is better than some of those guys you were about to talk about there a second ago.
Yeah. I just won't get into them, but
Redford is a really his career is almost like, even with his directing work, it's just so encompassing.
Very, very encompassing. So this is one of a good film that nobody really talks about, and we can understand why, because it didn't make a lot of money at the box office, but it's definitely worthy to be checked out. But with that tone, let's move on to another Redford film.
No, I'm in a phone booth. I'm just a block away. I'm in the street.
You're in violation of secure communication procedures, Condor.
Listen, you son of a bitch, I'm telling you, I came back with lunch and it was raining and the whole house was murdered. Everybody is dead.
Right. Has the incident been discovered by anyone outside the company?
I don't know.
3 Days of the Condor, released in 1975. Robert Redford played the role of Turner. It's directed by Sidney Pollack, who did Tootsie, Sabrina, Out of Africa, The Firm, and The Yakuza. It also stars Faye Dunaway, Cliff Robertson, Max von Sydow, and John Houseman. It had a budget of $20 million and a box office of $27 million. Tone, tell people about the 3 Days of the Condor.
3 Days of the Condor to me is one of the most perfect spy thrillers that I've ever seen. And the first time I seen this, I was just when they started releasing DVDs, after we talked about VHSs, and you can go to I remember going to Circuit City and buying, just seeing this title, 3 Days of the Condor. That just sounds like a metal album. So I'm like, what is this? We bought it and we watched it, and it was literally one of the coolest movies I think that I had seen. One of at least the top 20. It's one of my favorite Redford films that we're going to talk about tonight. Because to me, there's so many other actors that I think just like try to, I'm not even gonna say mimic, they have their own set of coolness, but Robert Redford is just so cool in this movie. His hair, his glasses that he wears, he's just like oozing like, and to be fair, I'm not gonna lie, at the same time, I am really smitten with Faye Dunaway at the same time. Who at this time is married to the lead singer of the Jay Giles band, which is like, so she's dating a rock star. She's in a movie with Robert Redford. This movie's awesome. I pretty much think that like Brad Pitt steals a lot of his own charisma from this amazing Robert Redford sometimes in these kind of roles, because he's just so cool. Nothing against Brad Pitt. He's cool too, but like Robert Redford's just awesome. But back to the movie, there's just a lot of twists and turns. You played a really good part there. I really like when Robert Redford gets mad or he's like screaming and he's confused, because in this movie, he works like pretty much in like the office of what he's doing. He's not like a trained killer, which he ends up needing to get some skills pretty quickly to try to save himself, because he just ended up being in this awful situation.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about this film is I think now when we think of CIA films, even The Equalizer, they're trained killers, and Robert Redford was just basically a guy who sat who's a research guy. He sat and read books, which is why like you can tell when he's making that phone call to the office to let them know, he's like stuttering, he's flustered because he comes back and all his team is basically dead. And like he even forgets his code name, which is Condor. This is why he says Condor, to let them know who he is. I just masterful acting. Of course, yeah, Faye Dunaway was like a fox back then. But Redford like steals every scene. I love Cliff Robertson too, who most of our younger listeners will know him as Uncle Ben from Spider-Man, but a good actor in his own right. Max von Sydow, another great actor. He did probably one of the most famous films when he plays chess against death. Like just a phenomenal cast. And like I noticed that when I was going through these films that we picked, he's always surrounded himself with like masterful actors and actresses.
Which it's like he's always, he doesn't seem like somebody who's like, and that's what we're going to talk about in your next pick. Something that I heard somebody say, they said that, when he walked on the set, he wanted to be like everybody else. He wasn't like, oh, I'm Robert Redford, get out of my way, which I think is why you see his work feel so natural, because he wanted everybody to be a part of what was going on. And that's what I think makes these movies so great.
Yeah, and this film was based on Grady's novel 6 Days of the Condor, and the film suppressed it and compressed it down to 3 days. Also, in the Pelican Brief, the killer in the Pelican Brief, his favorite movie is 3 Days of the Condor, which I think is pretty funny. Just a masterful film. Another one that, when you mention Redford, this is not one of the first films that come up when you think about Redford, which is why I like doing this. Of course, it's over some crappy circumstances, but it also lets people know that, other than the hits, Robert Redford had some great films that nobody really talks about. And right now is the best time to explore them, especially to honor his legacy.
Yeah. I mean, definitely when you think about that mid-70s period where there are movies that are coming out that are kind of playing to the times, You know, you wonder sometimes, like, are they ever gonna make, like, I mean, they did make that movie Civil War, I guess, but, like, movies that, like, play to, like, this was a serious business film that really has lasted the time, which it's like, to me, I don't think this movie is dated at all. I mean, it feels pretty fresh, and I think Robert Redford's one of the main reasons why.
Yeah. Civil War, where Texas and California team up. No, but yeah, just a very, very great performance. But like you said, moving on to the next film.
As time passed, my father struggled for more to hold on to, asking me again and again had I told him everything. And finally, I said to him, maybe all I really know about Paul is that he was a fine fisherman. You know more than that, my father said. He was beautiful. And that was the last time we ever spoke of my brother's death.
1992's A River Runs Through It. Now, Robert Redford does not appear as an actor in this film. He actually directed this film. He does, however, appear as the narrator of an older Norman, who is played by Craig Schaefer, as well as Brad Pitt, who plays Paul. You got Tom Skerritt as the Reverend McLean, Brenda Bethlin, Edie McClurg, and Emily Lloyd, as well as a budget of $12 million and a box office of $43 million. Now, when I first saw this film as a younger kid, the fly fishing kind of was not a big, turn on to me to watch this film. I had to watch it when I was a little older and really appreciate what this film was going for, and basically talking about it's based off a book, but it's going off basically two lives of two sheltered Montana kids, and it kind of shows like one experiences life on the outside and the other one stays home, and just about talking about addiction and how you wish you could have changed things in the past. Brad Pitt is excellent in this film. Craig Schaefer is excellent, as well as Tom Skerritt. I think the chemistry between them three in this film is pound for pound some of the best, and I love that Redford basically narrates this film. It just shows the many talents of Robert Redford. He wasn't just a great actor; he was a great director. Although this wasn't one of his first films, it is a film that gets some worldwide acclaim, and it's probably because of Brad Pitt, because everybody loves Brad Pitt. There's a Brad Pitt in his Brad Pitt, the model phase, coming out in the '90s. But you would think that this premise would be boring, and he basically read a book about a river named The River Runs Through It, and changed it into a film and put his own art style in it to make it encapsulating and make you have all these feelings about some basically a relationship. It's something you can relate to, and you have like young actors who are in this film that were excellent as well. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's a great actor in his own right, plays the young Norman. This is his film debut. Just him coming in. You had River Phoenix was auditioned for Paul, but Brad Pitt got the role. You had people that wanted this role just to work with Robert Redford, and to me, it's one of his best films that he wasn't in person. And like you said, tell that story about how he walked on set for this one.
Yeah, I mean, he would go around the actors, and the actors, like, it's like they weren't like, because everybody called him Bob. If you knew him, they didn't call him Robert, you called him Bob. And he was like, that's what he was around the set. He was Bob, you know what I mean? Like, he wanted to be around the actors because he is an actor, but he's also making this film. I mean, you see this movie, I mean, the cinematography, some of the most beautiful cinematography you'll ever see in any movie. This movie hits home a lot for me because in the recent years, I've watched it a lot. I used to think I liked Legends of the Fall more, but now I know I like this movie more. There's something just about that clip you played. It kind of this movie reminds me a lot of like a Stand By Me. It's a story that you're engrossed in. The characters grow. The whole BS with Brad Pitt and his wife and how she dies is just awful. And it's just really, you can see it, but you also could see this story in a lot of other stories, which is kind of crazy too. So it's a very deep and meaningful movie, which I think is what Robert Redford wanted.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, Norman McClellan who actually wrote the book um, and stories collection of this film, was basically his book was rejected because it said the major publisher says it had too many trees in it, which I don't know makes any sense. Before the University of Chicago press published it in 1976, and Redford read the stories and wanted the rights really bad. He kept petitioning for them. He finally got them. Um, although there is some difference between the film and the stories, but the fact that he found something he really liked and brought that to the big screen when other people kind of missed on it just shows like he had not only had an eye for acting, he also had an eye for talent in terms of stories that he could bring to life, and he does an excellent job in this.
I was going to pick the other collaboration between Robert Redford and Brad Pitt because I like Spy Game. They did a good job when they reunited in 2001, and that's back to what I said earlier. I mean, would Robert Redford and Brad Pitt work together again if they didn't probably have such a good experience working on this? No. It's a good indication again to Robert Redford being somebody who likes to work with actors repeatedly, especially when they have good experiences.
Yeah, and I've been watching a lot of camping videos. I've been really getting into YouTube channels, Lost Lakes, Xander, the Outdoor Boys. I've been watching a lot of them. I really love the scenery shots of what they're doing. Basically, they live off land.
Can you send me some of those? I don't know what you're talking about, but it sounds incredible. So please send me some
I
of
will
those.
send it. It's basically different people living off land, canoeing,
cool.
catching fish and stuff like that.
I love that stuff.
And they have like drones. It's basically them by themselves, and they're basically talking to the camera and showing you stuff. But the scenery stuff, some of them are Outdoor Boys is in Alaska, so they have the Northern Lights he shows at night. And the other two are in Canada, and just like the parks they go to and the rivers they go to, the lakes they go to are beautiful, like beautiful. Great scenery. And I think for this film, them fishing, the fly fishing, really captures that kind of essence. It's supposed to be based in Montana, and it kind of gave me those feels. I rewatched this film for the review that we're doing. I just really, really appreciate this film even more.
Yeah, it's one of those that definitely, as you get older, you're just going to keep appreciating it more and more and more for its beautiful scenery, but also its connection to some things in life too.
Yeah, and because of the cinematography, it won an Oscar for that in '93. I'm not gonna say his name because I'll probably pronounce it incorrectly, but that's like I said, it resonated with me, and that's what films are supposed to do. They give you that feeling, not just a story, but the scenery really helped.
I definitely agree.
But with that, my friend, let's move on to your next film.
Once when I was reporting, Lyndon Johnson's top guy gave me the word. They're looking for a successor for J. Edgar Hoover. I wrote it, and the day it appeared, Johnson held a press conference and appointed Hoover head of the FBI for life. When he was done, turned to his top guy, and the president said, "Call Ben Bradley and tell him fuck you." Well, everybody said, "You did it, Ben. You screwed up. You stuck us with Hoover forever."
1976's All the President's Men. He played the role of Bob Woodward. The movie won 4 Oscars, one for Best Supporting Actor, Best Writing, Best Art Direction, and Best Sound. It was directed by Alan J. Pakula, who did The Devil's Own, The Pelican Brief, Consenting Adult, and Presumed Innocent. It stars Dustin Hoffman, Jack Warden, Martin Balsam, Hal Holbrook, Jason Robards, who won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, Jane Alexander, and Ned Beatty comes in his film. It had a budget of $8.5 million and made $70 million at the box office. Tone, tell me about this one.
I mean, when you look at this, I just keep looking at the cast below Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford, and you talk about some of the coolest MFers of all time, man. I mean, Jason Robards is awesome. I mean, you've talked about Once Upon a Time in the West. We've talked about how cool he was in that. I love him as the grandpa in Parenthood. He's just awesome. Hal Holbrook. I mean, come on, Creepshow, amazing. But to the movie, I'm getting off topic. The movie itself is incredible for the same reason that I believe Presumed Innocent is incredible. it's again, we're looking deeper into something that this time is a true story, which makes it even more interesting, because if you don't know anything about the story, you could watch this movie and you could learn a little bit more. And that's pretty much what I did. There was a time period, it was like that, 7th grade, 8th grade, and then all of high school, where it was just try to watch as many cool movies as you can watch. And this is one of those movies, I mean, of course, I started with the Taxi Drivers and the Scarfaces, but what I actually enjoy more than those, I'm a big Dustin Hoffman, Robert Redford guy. So it's funny that now we've talked about some of the actors who have starred in, Scarface and Taxi Driver, and somehow their movies have dwindled off. Where like guys like Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman, I always had this question, like, what were the tiers of great actors? Like, is Redford and Hoffman in the same tier as De Niro and Pacino? Are they all in different tiers? Are they all in the same tier, or does tiers don't matter? These are all the questions that when you're talking about lists of good actors. But this movie definitely shows why Robert Redford, again, is leading the charge at being just another awesome actor. I mean, you got this and 3 Days of the Condor coming right out around each other. It's just awesome filmmaking time.
Yeah, I mean, and also you have people who are in this film that have minor roles, but I mean, went on to go do bigger things. You got F. Murray Abraham. He plays a arresting officer in this film. He, of course, will go on to win an Oscar for Amadeus. You have Dominic Chianese, who would play Uncle Junior in The Sopranos. Also in The Godfather as Godfather 2 as Johnny Ola. Those two people right there, I mean, just talent all around him. Of course, this film centers around the Watergate scandal, and the two reporters that broke the news on it in Redford and Hoffman play the roles. This film was actually written by the two real reporters that broke it, which they won an Oscar for, which is kind of crazy because I thought Forrest Gump reported those people, breaking into the Watergate hotel when he was staying there, but I guess it wasn't him. But in all seriousness, no, Dustin Hoffman's an actor that, for one, I like Dustin Hoffman not just for his films, but me and him both share the same birthday. So it's one of the few, like, you have the famous
really?
person, the famous person born your same day. It's Justin Hoffman for me.
Lucky. It's Cher for me. No, I'm just
hey, it's awesome to share.
I know.
But he's a 2-time Oscar winner that doesn't get talked about a lot. Just an excellent actor. And to pair him with Robert Redford, their chemistry is excellent. I keep saying excellent, but it's phenomenal. There you go. There's a new word for you. But this film kept me glued to my seat. It was very paced very well. And sometimes these, legacy films or true stories, they kind of like drag on just a little bit. This one didn't. This one it kept me interested. It kind of gave you the background and the inner workings of the newspaper industry, and that opening cold open we had with him explaining that he was told that Hoover was going to retire, and just for Lyndon B. Johnson to be an asshole, he made Hoover life head of the FBI just so he can say fuck you to the reporter. And sometimes it really happens like that. I mean, there's some stories that have happened like that come out. But the funny thing is, Tom, that while this film was being made, Redford was also shooting your film, 3 Days of the Condor, and he didn't really get a chance to really speak with Faye Donahan over on that film because he was doing this film. He was prepping for this film. It really surprised me that those two actors in this film were not nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, that is very shocking, I would say.
Because it's
also shocking that they are 7 years older than the real Woodward and Birdstein.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't even know that until looking at the note. That's crazy.
Yeah, just a great film. If you haven't seen this one, I highly recommend to check this one. I know we're gonna keep saying that, but this one is it's got history in it. For those history buffs, it's got scandal in it. It kind of relates to what's going on now in terms of scandals and politics. So who knows? Maybe in 30 years there'll be another one of these films with our current president
That could
or
be. You never know.
presidents.
Never know.
Who knows? But yeah, definitely check this one out. It's definitely worth it. Moving on to our next film, my friend.
If it's starting all over again, the lying, the covering up, the disappearing for hours, I will not stand for it. I can't stand it. I really can't.
Well, don't then. Go to Europe.
Connie, now, Connie.
The only reason
Connie,
she
you
cares, the only reason she gives a fuck about it
Connie.
is because someone else knew about it first.
Just stop it, Connie.
No, you
Stop
tell her to stop it. You never tell her a goddamn thing. And I know why she never came to the hospital. She's busy going to goddamn Spain and goddamn Portugal. Why should she care if I'm hung up by the balls out there?
1980s Ordinary People, again directed by Robert Redford. This is actually the first film he directed, and this film won 4 Oscars, including Best Director, which is Redford's only Oscar, Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Writing Screenplay. The film was directed by Redford, starring Donald Sutherland, Mary Tyler Moore, Judd Hirsch, Timothy Hutton, who won the Oscar at the time for Best Supporting Actor and was 20 years old at the time, being the youngest to win at the time. Emmett Walsh and Elizabeth McGovern. The movie had a budget of $6 million and a box office of $54 million. Again, as I was saying, how Redford has talents, not just as acting, but finding stories that resonate, bringing them to life as he does with A River Runs Through It. This is his first film, and to hit a grand slam on your first film to direct is incredibly hard, and he did it here. This story is cultivating in so many ways, relatable in so many ways to so many people, between, two parents that lost an older son to an accident. Their younger son attempts to hurt himself and take his own life, and a cold-hearted mother who basically resents people to thinking her public image of her is not perfect. I will say this: Mary Tyler Moore steals the show in this film. I think Timothy Hutton is excellent in it, but Mary Tyler Moore, who most know for the Mary Tyler Moore Show as a comedic actress, like she takes the ball and fucking runs with it. Like she is phenomenal. You hate her by the end of this film. Judd Hirsch is the great job as the psychiatrist doctor. Donald Sutherland actually does a really, really good job. You see him usually as kind of the oddball pieces of film he's in. He plays oddball characters, or the strong character. This one, he's like basically a mild-tempered man that's kind of like he's kind of afraid of his wife. He's afraid of upsetting the situation, especially what they know that's going through for losing a son. He doesn't want things to blow up. And he's kind of like very, very temperamental. He doesn't want to, rock the boat too much. And it all leads to a great, great climax in the film. I highly recommend you see this one. I know I said that a couple times, but this one, I really like this film. And the fact that Redford directed it, it makes so much sense that only he could have made this in his vision. What do you think of Ordinary People, Tom?
So I got a little story here. I was going to tell you this prior, but I thought I'd just save it for this time. So growing up in my house, when you were to ask, my dad, what was the worst movie that was ever came out? And this is even before I knew movies. I was like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He would just keep saying, Ordinary People. It's the worst movie I've ever seen. And then I kind of was like, I needed to know more. And he's like, yeah, well, one time me and your mom, we had our friends over, and it was the most boringest movie I've ever watched. And I was like, okay. And he's like, and this was the most ridiculous thing he said. He's like, it was so boring. And it was at our house. He's like, I went into the bathroom and I laid on the ground for 20 minutes and I just stared up at the ceiling. It was that boring. And I'm like, oh, okay. He doesn't like, and I know him at this, he doesn't like any kind of Academy Award type movie. So I say to myself, I'm in college at the library. They got the movie. So I go and I rent it. And I'm like, okay, here we go, Tone. You've heard all the worst movie ever. I watched the movie and I love the movie. I mean, that's who I am for all the things that you said. And I even go back home and I tell him, that movie wasn't that bad. And he's like, it was the worst. And you know what it was? Is he just liked that John Carpenter action all the time where like to me, I really do. It's one of my favorite things to dip into my emotions while watching movies, because this movie is a very vulnerable movie. And that's what you get from it. You know what I mean? And it's back to, All the President's Men. These are movies that they're getting you in a different spot. It's not like, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger and Commando, that's cool, but you also got to respect these type of movies. And I don't think if he never told that story and put it all high, I don't know if I would have ever watched it and been like, I love this movie, screw him. And that was always me, is like, I could watch things objectively like this and say, hey, you know what? And then to find out Robert Redford directed it. And then to find out too, he loved the movie Jeremiah Johnson. So I'd say to him, I was like, yeah, you like Jeremiah Johnson. That's Robert Redford. You should like this. That's how I am. If you like Robert Redford or you like an actor, and a movie's good, you should like it. So
yeah,
good pick.
Crazy thing is, Gene Hackman was cast as Berger, the doctor, first, but left due to Superman 2 reshoots. Hirsch finished the scenes in 9 days and earned an Oscar nod for it. Richard Dreyfuss has actually offered the psychiatrist role as well, but he told Robert Redford he was having a nervous breakdown, so he couldn't do it. It's just like, it's crazy how many great actors, couldn't do this film. And speaking of the role of Conrad, you had like Charlie Sheen audition, you had Emilio Estevez audition, you had Michael J. Fox audition, and this film was made in 1980, so this is almost at the peak of those guys' careers going forward. Sean Penn also auditioned, Rob Lowe. They just didn't get the part over Timothy Hutton, who did a great job. I mean, he won an Oscar for the film. But even Mary Tyler Moore calls this film the holy grail of her career, which is remarkable. Like, when I think of Mary Tyler Moore, I think of Mary Tyler Moore show, but I always like to tell people, you gotta watch Ordinary People, because she doesn't play Mary Tyler Moore in that one.
Sure does not.
Yeah, it's this film to me is it's perfect in a lot of ways, and this one pulls at the heartstrings a lot.
And I mean, it's a hard subject, losing a child.
Mhm.
So you often say to yourself, like, what, when you see like her snap like that, and I'm at work and I'm about to snap sometimes, you say to yourself, like, what is the level that I would snap in that situation? So that's what makes the movie something to think about, because she isn't a nice person and you shouldn't act that way to your other child. And there's a lot of learning lessons from it, which makes it a good choice, a good pick.
Yeah. Thank you, my man.
You're welcome.
Moving on to our next film. Sorry, I had to lighten it up just a little bit.
Just a tiny bit.
But to even lighten it up even more, instead of playing an audio clip, check out this this scene from the film.
Classic.
1967's Barefoot in the Park. He plays a role of Paul Bratter. It's directed by Gene Saks, who did A Fine Romance, Brighton Beach Memoirs, Mom, Last of the Red Hot Lovers, Cactus Flower, and The Odd Couple. It's also starring Jane Fonda, Charles Boyer, Mildred Netwick, Herb Edelman, and Mabel Albertson. Had a budget of $2 million and made a box office of $361, according to IMDb. Tone, tell people about this film.
One of my best friends in 8th grade, when I moved here to Indiana, his mom, she would always sit in the basement and watch like these old movies, like 1950s movies, early 1960s movies. And he'd like sometimes tell me like, well, they sucked generally, but he'd be like, this one time he's like, you know what? We should watch Barefoot in the Park. And I'm like, what's Barefoot in the Park? He's like, you know what? There was some ridiculous stuff that happened in this movie. And I was like, okay, let's give it a chance. And as you see in the scene, it's like I like this movie with Ben Stiller called Duplex.
Yeah.
Because it's just stupid. You know what I mean? And like this movie it gives me those vibes, but like late 60s, just, you can see how fresh-faced Robert Redford is. And honestly, I heard this story this week about Robert Redford that really, really, really kind of honestly, now that you hate to darken it a little bit more because you think of ordinary people now. I don't know if you know this, but him and his wife, they lost their first child to SIDS at 6 months. And he had 3 children after that. But he said he never really got over his first child's death. And you say to yourself, this movie is after that. So it just shows that either, he's a really good actor, which he is, amazing, and that's what you have to be, but it also shows that, he could also move on and do something lighthearted and not be so dark. It wasn't like he was like, I got to do a dark movie because I have these dark things going on. Barefoot in the Park is a lot of fun. It's light on its feet. Jane Fonda is Jane Fonda. And it's just, again, it's Robert Redford, very young, which is cool to see.
Yeah, and this is a Neil Simon play that made it big. Of course, Bratter went on to, not Bratter, Sachs went on to go direct other Neil Simon plays, the Last of Red Hot Lovers, and of course, probably the most famous one, The Odd Couple. But I've seen this movie a couple times. That the belly dancer scene always makes me laugh because it's just so random. But yeah, there's for one, Jane Fonda is like the Hollywood Scarlet. She's beautiful in this film. And it just has like a lot of gags with, why am I feeling this draft? Oh, it's the skylight. There's a hole in the skylight. That fact like that, facts that they have to go up the elevator. They have no elevator. They have to walk up the 9 floors to their room, their house. Just the random stuff like that. It's basically like these two people who are in love that, they're kind of moving into their first place and they have all these shenanigans happen. And to hear, the story that you told about Redford and his son, losing his child. I mean, it's very hard for any parent to lose a child, and then to go on to work, and especially in a comedy film. I have to hand it to him for doing this.
I think this is kind of funny as I'm looking at here just to think of is that in 1968 is when Once Upon a Time in the West comes out. So imagine her father is probably at the local movie theater, Barefoot in the Park's playing. There's his daughter, Jane Fonda, and here's Henry Fonda making Once Upon a Time in the West, the serious movie. It's really cool time, man, in Hollywood to be able to just everybody working like this and really just awesome. As you said, Neil Simon just did really great work. And I think they did a good job. I mean, I'm not going to lie. The movie does feel a little bit like a play on screen. But it still doesn't take away from the fact of, for the time period, what they're going for. I think they nailed it pretty well.
Yeah, I thought it was excellently done. I mean, this film, of all the films we're talking about, this film feels more dated a little bit.
It does.
But not as much to the degree.
That's why I keep saying for the time period, because like a lot of people would watch this and be like, but you gotta put yourself in the time period because
Yeah. Crazy thing is, when I was doing the notes here, Redford knew the script back and forth, and he was actually giving notes to the director, to help with directing Jane Fonda scenes.
That's funny.
So that's kind of funny. Milford Datwick actually got an Oscar nomination out of this. It was her only one. So this film did get some Oscar buzz, but no winners. But if you haven't seen it, check it out. If you want to see some early Redford, and this is the Redford that made the women swoon over him for his beautiful looks. So be sure to check this one out if you haven't. But moving into the home stretch, my friend, I believe we have 4 movies left.
Open the door, Woodcock, or tell her goodbye.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
What am I going to tell poor Mr. Harriman?
1969's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He played the role of the Sundance Kid. This film won 4 Oscars: Best Writing, Best Cinematography, Best Original Score, and Best Original Song. It was directed by George Roy Hill, who did The Sting, Slaughterhouse-Five, Slapshot, and Toys in the Attic. Along with Robert Redford, it stars Paul Newman as Butch Cassidy, Catherine Ross, Strother Martin, Henry Jones, and Jeff Corey. It had a budget of $6 million and a box office of 102. This film is talked about, at length when people talk about the best westerns. There's always Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. This film's always talked about as the buddy cowboy film. In one of my favorite shows, Suits, they always say when Mike and Harvey get back together after they've been fighting, Mike shouts out, "Butch and Sundance are back together." It's always like something that's always mentioned about the buddy cowboy film. But this film has a lot of action in it. Phenomenal acting. The opening monologue was actually Paul Newman doing the fake woman's voice. You have two of Hollywood's best looking actors in this film. That their chemistry is phenomenal. The ending itself, going out in the blaze of glory, even though it's like the freeze frame at the end, is iconic. It was parodied in so many things going forward. One of my favorite non-Sergio Leone, non-Clint Eastwood westerns that is also non-Young Guns. But it's an excellent film. This is, the power bromance between Paul Newman and Robert Redford. This just oozes machismo, and I really enjoy it because it has comedy, action, all balled into one. What'd you think about this one, Tom?
Oh, I mean, great movie. It's not my favorite of their combos together, but it is a great movie. It's the acting involved with these two when they get together. Funny to hear the behind the scenes story, all the beer they drank in Mexico together, to just be a fly on the wall for one of those nights. Can I just have one beer with you guys? Just to hear what they're talking about, because again, for the time period, you're looking at a time period of innovativeness behind the film. And, I really think that George Roy Hill did a good job at that.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, this film actually was in the process of being made. It was called The Sundance Kid and Butch Cassidy. And the reason it was called that way was because the Sundance Kid was played by Steve McQueen.
Ooh.
Along with Butch Cassidy, of course, being played by Paul Newman. And when Steve McQueen dropped out, they flip-flopped it and put Robert Redford in there, which is kind of amazing because another film that will come later is probably one of Redford's best films. But Robert Redford was still kind of coming, into his own in terms of acting. And of course, he did Barefoot in the Park before this, but this was like a big time Hollywood spectacle, and you have Paul Newman, who already did his film with Jackie Gleason, The Hustler. You couldn't have put a better pair together.
My sixth film that I didn't pick for tonight, but came out a couple years after this, another Redford Western, Jeremiah Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
He does good job Western. He does good job spy thriller. I mean, he does a good job as an African hunter and out of Africa. You know what I mean? You put Redford in anything, and he can nail it, really.
Yeah, and again, Redford not being super well known, had to be fought for to get this role by Paul Newman to cast Robert Redford in it, which shows how much he believed in him. This film did not make a lot of money right out the gate because of lukewarm critic reviews, but so many people liked it that word of mouth spread to the point where when it was raining, even the theaters were still lining up with a bunch of people trying to see this film, and that's why it made so much money at the box office off a $6 million budget, which at that time was $100 million is a lot of money to be making, especially in the late 60s. This film was named number 73 as NFI's greatest American movie list. Crazy thing, Tone, Sam Elliott's in this film. This is his film debut. He doesn't have any front-on shots. He's in the background somewhere. but this is his film debut, and it's kind of crazy. You know, this was in '69, and I forget how old Sam Elliott is. Jen, okay. This comment is complete hogwash. Robert Redford just spoke to me, and he said it's not Dinky's time. RIP Robert Redford. That was my wife saying that. And the reason she's saying that is because there's this Chewini I want. This Dotson.
Oh, really?
Dotson.
Get it?
And he's up for adoption. His name is
Yump,
Dinky.
get him.
And Jen does not want him. So I need all the at the show people to flood her.
Please, Jen, please. You know what? I'll donate it some food.
There, Jen. Tony said donate food.
That's Chewini. I didn't even know they be.
She threw me off with the Dinky comment, but his name is Dinky. Yeah, great film. Had 9 BFTA awards, which is a record, including Best Actor, Best Actress, and Director. Again, though, this film did not score any Oscars for the 2 leads. Sam, get the top. Thank you, Sam. Tell her, Sam. Yeah, this film didn't get any Wienergate.
Wienergate.
Didn't score any Oscars for the leads, which is surprising. Like, the Oscars were really hard to get nominated back then, man.
Yeah, I mean that, and you know, I had this book. I don't know where it was. It was like late 60s, early 70s ultra violence in movies, which there is a lot of cool violence in this movie for the time period, which, you know, I don't know if that kind of got it off the academies, which is odd if it did, but they should have got one of these two should have got nominated or won. I don't have the list of that year in front of me, but I bet I can definitely look at it and tell you that they should have been the Academy Award winners for that year, because I mean, it is Paul Newman and Robert Redford and Catherine Ross, who ends up marrying Sam Elliott down the road sometime.
Yeah, that's crazy too. So for the film's Best Picture that year was Midnight Cowboy.
Oh, I love that.
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid was nominated, but they didn't win. The Best Actor that year was True Grit, John Wayne.
Really?
Rooster Cogburn, yep. Richard Burton was nominated for The End of a Thousand Days as King Henry. Dustin Hoffman was nominated for Midnight Cowboy. Peter O'Toole for Goodbye, Mr. Chips. And John Voight for Midnight Cowboy. For Best...
Rooster, I guess I got to watch Rooster Cogburn. I didn't know he was nominated for... he won?
Yeah, he won for that. Actually, to be honest, I saw both films. The original and the remake. And I prefer the remake, actually, which is very surprising.
When's the remake? Who's in the remake?
Jeff Daniels, not Jeff Daniels. The guy who was in.
You're talking about the original True Grit. The original
True Grit. Yeah, True Grit.
Is this character in the movie Rooster Cogburn?
Yes.
Oh, okay. For some reason, you're
Jeff
right.
Bridges.
I was thinking there was a movie called Rooster Cogburn. I was like, I've never seen that.
There is a film called Rooster Cogburn, I believe, with
John Wayne.
With John Wayne, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a sequel or some crap.
That's where I was getting.
Yeah, Rooster Cogburn came out in 75.
Gotcha. There we go. Thank you, Yump. You solved my movie thing there.
But Jeff Bridges does a great job in the remake.
He does.
But also for Best Actor in a Supporting Role, let's see. Gig Young won for They Shoot Horses, Don't They? As Rocky. Rupert Cross for The Revivers. Elliot Gould for Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. Jack Nicholson for Easy Rider, and Anthony Quayle for Anne of a Thousand Days. I think
they could have fit him in there.
Yeah,
he definitely is a winner. You know, I've heard of that. I always thought that title of that movie sounded cool. I've never seen it. Do They Shoot Horses, Don't They? But again, you know, should have got more.
Yeah, a Sidney Pollack film. But yeah, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, classic Western. The epic buddy Western, I think. Has everything you want in it. Just check it out if you haven't seen it. It's moving on, my friend. 1984's The Natural. He played the role of Roy Hobbs. It was directed by Barry Livingston, who did Rain Man, The Alto Knights, Bandits, Wag the Dog, Bugsy, and Good Morning Vietnam. The film stars along with Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, diabetes, Barbara Hershey, and Robert Porsky, as well as Richard Farnsworth. The movie had a box office of $47 million and a budget of $28 million. Tone, go start with your love for The Natural.
Well, how do I start this tonight? Like, so I was last on our 100th episode a couple weeks ago. It was pretty hilarious. We talked about what was the movie we talked about with Jackie, the baseball one? The
42?
No, the one with Jackie. We talked with Jackie on the show.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Jackie Robinson.
No.
Little Big League.
Little Big League. And then the very next day, I went to a festival and I saw Rookie of the Year playing in his band. And he started off playing the song. Yes, and the song he started off with was called Stifler's Mom instead of Stacy's Mom. It was really cheesy. But what I realized with that movie and with The Natural, for me personally, is it's a piece of my childhood. You know, it could be different for you. It could be different for other people. Whereas, like, I could understand your hate for Scarface or your hate for The Doors. But, like, for The Natural, it's like, to me, just it's like my introduction to why I think baseball was cool. And it's just this it's not even the movie as a whole, because you could tear apart a lot of the movie. It's literally the end, the last 5 minutes of the movie. To me, I think it's one of those movies where a lot of it is, it's kind of like the end of Scarface, to be honest with you. It's a lot of filler. And then at the end, you got one of the coolest shootouts that could be in a movie. In this movie, I think there's a lot of filler. And then at the end, I just think the idea that you make it back all the way from being shot in the room to hitting a home run. And I know a lot of people, because I was reading more things today, it's overstuffed. It's too whimsical and all that. I mean, I get that. But as a kid, when you see it, I just thought it was so cool when he hit that home run at the end. And I think it's because it was Robert Redford. Like, honestly, would I fight for this movie if it's Sly Stallone? No. Would I fight for this movie if it's Pacino? No. Would I fight for this? But it's because Robert Redford just looks so much like a baseball player to me. That's really where I'm coming from on the movie.
You keep your mouth there shut, mister. There's ladies present. So, all right. Do I think The Natural is a bad film? No. Do I hate The Natural? No. I just prefer the book. But I will tell you this.
That's a good argument.
Did he look like a natural? One thing I don't like about this film, I think this film, like, Redford knocks out of the park. The story of it is cool. Of course, there are some changes from this film and the book, which is going to happen when you're Hollywood, so that doesn't surprise me. But one thing I didn't like, and I wish they would have done different, is that when the beginning of the film starts and Redford is supposed to be 19 years old, there's no fucking way Robert Redford is 19 years old.
Well, there's a lot. I mean,
you know what I mean? I mean, they did him an injustice. It has nothing to do with him.
No,
it's more on, like, they should have had a younger actor just play that role, and so then you could have him come out as Roy, because that part.
But I don't want to be real rude here, but we got a new movie coming out next summer where we're supposed to imagine that one guy who used to be Iron Man is literally a whole nother guy and a character. We're supposed to just go, wow, this is cool. In this movie, at least he's playing the same guy. Yeah, they could have went with someone else, but let's also say, in movies, did they even do that before this time period? Like, when did they start casting younger people to do the older people's part?
But dude, he's 19.
I don't agree. I agree with you. It's bad. That is bad. Tom Sizemore going through the wall is bad. Not Tom Sizemore. Michael Madsen going through the wall.
But I mean, that's part of the book, though. That when he dies, Bump Bailey.
But like, you watch that scene, and he didn't look like he took a hard enough fall to die. That was one of the conversations me and my dad always used to have. Was like,
typecast.
Did the spear go through him? Like, how did that happen?
Also, the when he breaks through the wall, you can see it's like cardboard.
That's what I mean. But there's a lot of that. I mean, there's cheesiness. Like
That's what kind of threw me off. I love the battle with the Whammer. But see, one of the things that like I like, and it's maybe because when Roy comes back to the majors, when he comes back to play for the Knights, like see, he's supposed to be 19 there, but when he comes back to play for the Knights, one thing I did like about the book is there's a part where he comes into the clubhouse for the first time, and he's looking at the jerseys, and he starts to think about players he grew up liking, and the Whammer comes up and he thinks about the time he struck him out, and he's like, damn, he's probably retired, long retired now, and I'm just barely getting here. That kind of like, I like little things like that was added. And of course, it's not going to transfer over to the film, but I wish they would have put a little bit more substance into it. And I think, yeah, this film does drag a little bit, but it's supposed to be romanticized. It's a long film, but they kind of force fed us a lot of stuff in the film. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
They packed it all into one. They could have cut some little things out, like the role of Iris. I thought, Glenn Close, like she's a real big prominent role in his life, and her scenes were kind of that she wasn't really used that well in the film. Now the home run at the end is fucking excellent. Like that's an epic home. That's epic. That's Hollywood.
Yeah.
That will resonate with me for the rest of my life. Hitting him hit the lights, but in the book he strikes out.
Well, but again, it's back to two scenes I remember as a kid. This scene, and it was like 10 years. All I remember is this scene where this boy is holding his brother on his shoulders playing a harmonica. And he falls and he hangs himself. And I didn't know the movie, and until finally my dad was watching it again, and it was Once Upon a Time in the West. So like when you see these things as a kid and it remembers in your head, you didn't read the book when you first saw this movie on WGN either. It wasn't until later you read the book and you go, well, you know what? The book is a lot better. It's like Stephen King. You know what I mean? Like
I'll give you that.
How many Stephen King books have you? I haven't read a lot of them, but have you read a lot of Stephen King's?
Yeah.
So do you say the books majorly are better than the movies?
I would say for most part,
because it's
yes,
deeper. Because it's deeper. You know what I mean?
There's films that like the book I think was portrayed excellent. Even for instance, Dr. Sleep. And the book is totally ending, some of the parts like totally different than the film. The film was excellent. The Shining, another one, totally different than the book. I mean, we saw how the book was portrayed in that film series. It was badly done. When they did the TV movie The Shining. That I would say actually the film's better than the book. For King. Now I'm not saying this, but just for this thing, I think I was introduced to the scene and it was built up so much as one of the best baseball movies. And then I read the book and I'm like, damn, I really like the book more than the movie.
I think I'll say my one problem is, and I do this with everything, is when people put up one thing to put something else down. So like a lot of people will come along and like you'll meet people who say they love the natural. You see people they hate the natural, but you'll meet people who go, natural sucks, but this is better. And you're like, well, what is this? And they'll be like, well, Major League. And you'll be like, well, or Bull Durham. The only really kind of baseball movies you can compare this movie to is like Field of Dreams. And to me,
probably the Yankees.
Yeah, probably something like that. But you're not going and comparing Moneyball to this movie. And a lot of people are like, Moneyball's a way better baseball movie than this. Well, they're different kinds of baseball movies. So like that's like saying this is 8 Men Out's better than Moneyball. Well, they're different. One's about different parts of the game.
Tony's just talking.
Let him hear
it. No, see, I don't. My more of my distaste in it. Like I said, I don't hate it. I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just more like I just prefer one thing over the other. And I kind of gave reasons. Like I just like the little more tidbits they add. And I wish they would have done that with the film. Nothing takes away from the performance of Robert Redford. He's excellent. Wilford Brimley's excellent. Robert Duvall's excellent. Prosky's excellent as the judge. Those actors they give good role. Good job. in performances. I just prefer just certain things, and
yeah.
I wish they would have added. And like I said, I mean, honestly though, does it feel like they kind of jammed the last stuff into one when they could have fine tuned it a little bit?
And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go to I'm gonna get a copy of the book because I've never read it,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna read it, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you that you more than likely will be pretty much right. Yeah.
And it talks about his scout that, he strikes out the whammer on, you know, he actually kills that guy.
Mm.
He throws a fastball so hard, and he's wearing he has a dishboard, the steel dishboard that they used to wash dishes on, under his suit, and he throws the ball so hard that the whammer misses. It hits him, and he dies later in the night. It's like just little stuff like that. I think it's kind of cool, like to show how phenomenal Roy was as a pitcher. Two good things that come out of this film. One, you get the iconic home run shot at the end. That's going to play on forever. Two, you get one of the best wrestling catchphrases stolen from this film, and that is "the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be," which Bret Hart stole from this film for the Hart Foundation. It eventually became his catchphrase as a wrestler. Which, if anybody knows me, I'm a huge fan of Bret Hart. Sorry, Brian, I love Bret Hart. I don't like the Bill Goldberg. No, but that to me makes it awesome. Bill Simmons actually did a compilation of what Roy's rookie stats were going to be, Tom, in 1979. He said he would have 115 games, 400 at-bats, 92 runs, 140 hits, 44 home runs, 106 RBIs, hitting 350, striking out 85 times, and walking 75.
Incredible.
Ridiculous. That's like Hall of Fame numbers there. And I always wondered, Bump saying the book is better than the film got canceled. I always wondered, like, what happens to Roy at the end of this film? I mean, his side is bleeding pretty bad from the bullet still lodged in there. Does he continue playing?
Well, isn't this is the final? This is the final scene of the movie right here.
Mm-hmm.
This scene on the screen isn't at the beginning. This is at the end.
Mm-hmm.
This is when he's playing ball with his son because him and Glenn Close have moved to the farm or whatever. So I figured they just live on the farm, and he is done with baseball. Like, it's one of those things that I think he just wanted to get to the top and be done with it.
Yeah. The crazy thing is, when he gets shot, it was inspired by Eddie Wakis, who was shot by an obsessed fan. Again, the book puts a little bit more on her. And this film also spawned an episode of your favorite show, the X-Files, The Unnatural.
Which now I gotta go back and watch that one. Two more things: Wilford Brimley and Richard Farnsworth as the coaches kick ass in this movie. They're awesome. And back to the ridiculousness is, I'll never forget being told by my dad that they didn't get people to fill the stadium in a lot of these things, so they got cardboard cutouts.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking really closely, it's just like cardboard cutouts, like in the crowd. There's some really cheesy stuff in the movie, but again, it's
also,
Robert Redford.
Wonder Boy became Wonder Bats by Homer Simpson as he. I always laugh at that part too because Roy's bat is perfect with the Wonder Boy and the lightning bolt, and in The Simpsons, Homer fucking puts nails into his bat, which makes no sense why he's putting nails in there. But they, of course, is a play off the film, which I thought was great. Probably my favorite Simpsons episodes when they play softball, the softball team. But it's a timeless classic. It's inspired by Joe Jackson for Shoeless Joe, which is why the book ends the way it does. I think the pitcher that gives up that he hits the home run off, and in the book is named Youngberry, which is supposed to show something. There's a part in the film though that they didn't include that's in the book, and I wish they would have, because it would have been a good chance to highlight, even though it's physically impossible. But in the book, he hits a line drive that shoots through the pitcher's legs and rises into the stands.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, even though it's physically impossible, it would have been kind of cool if they would have showed that in the book. And the movie, I mean, So it's little things like that. But maybe I'm building up the book too much for a set down, a
No,
letdown. But I
no.
just like it. But good film. Not my favorite, but I don't hate it. So I can tell you that, Tom. I don't. I
Well
give you a
done.
lot of shit about it just because I know you love it, but I
Well,
don't
no,
hate
no.
it.
Honestly, out of I'll give you these are our 3 movie disagreements. It's The Natural, it's The Doors, and it's the big one is Scarface. And out of all, I'll always give you Scar. You said a lot of nice things about The Natural tonight. The other 2 you could rip to shreds, and I can understand your reasoning for not liking that movie. This movie has some redeeming qualities to it, so you just can't say that it's awful. You can say that it's obviously, if the book is as good as you're making it, which sounds really good, I would agree with you. And personally, if this movie's made today and they have that Hollywood ending like that, I'd probably be pissed that they don't have him striking out at the end. I think it's just a time period where they had those Hollywood endings, but in a different time period, it might have been cool to do the strikeout at the end too.
And you're gonna find people who've heard both. I remember reading this, and I read this book before English class in high school.
Pretty
But
cool.
we read it one of my sophomore year in high school. We read this book again, and our teacher, a big baseball guy, was like, "So what do you guys think about the book and the ending?" And like half the class is like, "I prefer the movie ending better," which always made me laugh. And I'm like, "There's gonna be people who prefer that," but um, it's gonna be mixed crowd. Like even in the notes, it says some people prefer the writings to the film, and that's just the wonderful thing about cinema.
Mhm.
Um, you're not gonna love everything, and like I said, with us two, our views are just subjective. Doesn't mean either of us are correct. It's just the way we feel.
Well, yeah.
It's in
Well, I
the eye
mean,
of the beholder.
that's what art is. Today I was
Mhm.
arguing with students on how the hell did they make a movie out of Angry Birds? Like, what's the story that translated to not only one movie, but they're gonna have a 3rd one next year. And the student's like, well, it's about the birds and the pigs facing each other. I go, it's an hour and a half. That's not an hour and a half story. And he's just like staring at me. But that's
I'm gonna
again,
tell you something, Tone. They made a movie about Minecraft.
I know they did. And that's what I flipped and I said, but is Minecraft at least like Minecraft? And the kids were like, yeah. So I don't know anymore, man.
Yeah, but I mean, it
But
has
they
no real
should have made, but the
story.
movie is no, it's not. It's mindless, is what it is. But you know what? Let me give you this. For every 10 good movies, you can have one mindless one. You shouldn't have 10 mindless ones for every one good one.
Yes, that is exactly true.
And we brought up Stephen King real quick. He's got a new book movie out called The Line, The Hard Line, The Walking Line. It's with
Mhm.
Mark Hamill. Curious to check that out. So I don't know why I threw that in there. Just a little
Oh, we were talking about
you a little useless Stephen King movie information there, but that's
Yeah.
awesome though. Very awesome.
Mark Hamill,
Mark
cock
Hamill, yeah.
cock knocker.
Long Walk. There you go. Thank you, Sam. The Long Walk, which just looks ridiculously awesome.
All right, my man. Let's move on to our next one.
All right.
Tough luck, Ron Hand. But that's what you get for playing with your head up your ass. A couple more like that, we can all go to bed early. Name's Lonergan. Doyle Lonergan. You're gonna remember that, Mr. Shaw. You're gonna get yourself another game. You follow?
The Sting, 1973. He plays the role of Johnny Hooker. This film won 7 Oscars: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Art Direction, Best Costume, Best Film, Best Original Score. The film was directed by George Roy Hill, starring Paul Newman, Robert Shaw, Charles Dunning, Ray Walton, Eileen Brennan, Harold Gould, Robert Earl Jones, and Dana Leclerc. Had a budget of $5 million and made $156 million at the box office. This is the only film that Redford was nominated for Best Actor.
Really?
Which I find ridiculously crazy. I believe it's the only film he was nominated for actor. When you talk about confidence games, there's no better movie than Sting. This is the film I think that spawned that in my mind. Besides, maybe Ocean's 11, but this is the perfect film, and it has comedy. It has, you have action in it. Newman and again Redford play off each other so well. This timepiece is shot beautifully. The costumes are excellent in it. You have great actors, Robert Shaw in this film, who of course we know him from Quint in Jaws. You have Robert Earl Jones, who's the father of James Earl Jones. Uh, Another great actor, and this is his father. Uh, the crazy thing is, this film is talked about so much of how everybody loves it. We talked about this film before on this podcast. Uh, Robert Redford didn't actually watch this film until 2004.
Wow.
So he let it go. But you have great names in this film too. You got Henry Gondorf. You got Kid Twist. I always loved that name, Kid Twist by Harold Gould. You got J.J. Singleton, Eddie Niles. And those are real con men from the David Maurer's The Big Con. They kind of echo those names. Just a great, great cast, great story. I love the acting. I love how they get everybody to fall for it at the end. A perfect, perfect film in every way possible. I could go on about this forever. Also, I love the fact that his name is Johnny Hooker because it makes me think of Johnny Lee Hooker, the blues musician from Chicago. This film was based in Chicago, I believe, and it's just really cool. Like, it's cool, the coolest it can be for a 1930s film. What do you think about it, Tone?
I love Ray Walston in this movie from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, the teacher. He's there in the picture. Again, like, that twist at the end of this movie, man, it's so cool. There's something about the movie too. It's like the way the cinematography is, again, it does not look like it is what's the word I'm looking for? A newer, 1970, yeah. Or I mean, it looks like if they're trying to make it seem maybe older than it actually is, like, because it's in the 50s. And he does a good job at doing that. The same way thing he did in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. There's like a sheen over the film. And Paul Newman is just great. I love his introduction in this movie. He's just like almost seems like a drunken mess the whole entire film. But like he knows exactly what he's doing at the same time, which gives it that coolness. Paul Newman is like, if you asked me who was an actor that I could have been, I would have loved to have been Paul Newman. You know what I mean? Like Paul Newman, he was married to the same lady. I was so blown away that like when my mom told me that he was the guy who did that, he does the, which they still do, is the salad dressing. And they give all of the proceeds to charity, which I thought was awesome. Which is just like Robert Redford. Both of these guys like to give to charity and they love to give of themselves. And this movie is just another great pairing of both of them.
Yeah, Paul. I was about to make a joke about Paul Newman with his salad dressings. But I mean, a phenomenal actor in his own right. He's also a race car guy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite films of Paul Newman is probably one of his older ones, and that's Road to Perdition.
Oh, great.
Which I think is a great film. But the crazy thing is, this film was made in '73, and I have it here. And this is the only Robert Redford Best Actor nomination.
That's crazy.
Like, talk about getting like, I know he received an honorary Oscar, I believe, to go along with his director one. No, we haven't mentioned this yet, but we will. But it's just crazy that he only received one nomination for a legendary career. Crazy thing about the cast, when we talk about Robert Shaw, he played Quint, who's a drunk in Jaws. After rap, Shaw led Hill, which is the director, on a 2-day Irish pub crawl.
Oh man!
Then a shirtless screaming ping pong marathon. Schlitz Beer was in this film, which is the world's biggest brewery at the time. I just love everything about it, like the feel of it, the pictures of like the. I'm a big fan of this style of clothing. I wear 3-piece suits. I'm a big fan. My wife can tell you I have a lot of vests and whatnot. Like, I just like the clothing. The hats not so much because I don't really wear the hats because my head's too big, but like the suits and whatnot, I'm always been like kind of like drawn to that, which is why I kind of like 1930s films. Um, and this one like pulls me right in just with that. Also the music's kind of good too.
It's actually really cool music for this movie. That's like again, it sets the time. It's got like that
Yeah.
swing pond type sound. It's good.
And it shows like the shadiness, not just of these con men, but the fact when Robert Redford gets this bunch of money in the beginning, and then he goes to a shady ass gambling hall where he loses it all when they basically push a button to make sure his number doesn't come up. It's ridiculous. But yeah, man, it's a classic film, classic gambling film. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend to watch this one. You ready for our last one, my friend?
Let's do it.
Yes, he just.
So what are you saying? You can't buy love? That's a bit of a cliche, don't you think?
It's absolutely true.
Is it? What do you think?
I agree with Diana.
You do. Well, let's test the cliche. Suppose I were to offer you $1 million for one night with your wife.
I'm not gonna lie, I laughed when I saw this one on there. Indecent Proposal, released in 1993 as John Gage. He plays the role. Directed by Adrian Lyne, who did Jacob's Ladder, Flashdance, Fatal Attraction, Unfaithful, Lolita, and Deep Water. The film was starring with Redford was Demi Moore, Woody Harrelson, Seymour Castle, Oliver Platt, Rip Taylor, and Billy Bob Thornton. It had a budget of $38 million and made a box office of $266 million. Tell us about Indecent Proposal, Tom.
Me and my mom would go to the video store and she'd pick out a movie to watch. So I'm trying to still think in my mind why she would think that me and her sitting down at, what year did this come out? 93, an 11-year-old, 12-year-old Tony watching Indecent Proposal. And every time a scene would come on where there was intimacy, she'd ask me to leave the room, which would be like, how many scenes are in this movie where they're getting it on? Like 10. So she'd be like, Tony, you got to leave the room. Tony, got to leave the room. And I'd be like, can I come back in the room yet? So like, to me, like,
he's having a little audio issues. But he's telling us he had to leave the room. It was too spicy for him there. This film always made me laugh because I remember seeing it on the movie channel as a, advertisement for this film. And when I watched it, I was just like, wow. I mean, who couldn't love Demi Moore? I mean, Demi Moore is fresh off, she was the 80s Brat Pack kid. She came in and she does A Few Good Men, and then she's in this film, and then she would go on to do
it knows when I'm going to get passionate. That's the problem. Every time I start to that was the first time all show my blood started getting excited about the story, and then all of a sudden I got kicked. But so I was saying later finding out that
Tony just saw the proposal part, so my wife said.
It was funny because I ask everybody when they watch this movie, or any movie, like if we were in a room watching a movie together, a lot of times I'll ask you, like, would you do what they're doing? Like, would you be a part of that? But in this case, it's just a really, really ridiculous scenario in this movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was saying goodnight to me.
No, it's all good. And like I was saying when you dropped out,
yeah,
like, this film, I remember seeing it on the movie channel for, being advertised all the time. And it was like that sleazy, like Robert Redford, where he like glances at Demi Moore. And then it like at the time, I'm like, why is this guy like giving up his wife? Is she a hooker? Like that was my thinking at the time. But, Demi Moore, like it still is a Scarlet. Like she's still beautiful. She just got off A Few Good Men and then came to this film. And then, of course, she went on to do Striptease, which like was a horrible movie, but everybody went to see it for a different reason. But the premise is ridiculous. But the more and more I think about it, Robert Redford was not just being like a
But in like,
con man, but he's
but
just
like in
proving a
today's
point.
time, is it ridiculous though? Like because I think really what if you ask me what drew like even my mom to the story
Mhm.
is the fact that people struggle financially and they were struggling financially bad, like bad. So like in that scenario when you're struggling financially bad, what are you willing to do to get yourself out of that scenario? Now in this situation, you would never give your wife up generally. Nobody would or should, and I don't think he really wanted to. Okay. But then again, what does all the movies we talk about, look at what Scarface did for money, look at in this movie, you got Robert Redford shows up and he's just like, your wife's beautiful. I'll give you this money to be with her. And generally, most guys would knock Robert Redford out and it would be over with. But like for some unknown reason, these two fools decided to get involved. And what really the worst part about it is Woody Harrelson's mind thinking that she would ever just think that this one night stand was going to be it. Like, and I always think that too, because I asked Katie, I go, okay, like Robert, I always say, like, you're Demi Moore in this situation, and Robert Redford's coming and offering this money. Is Robert Redford attractive enough to accept the money? And that's really kind of, but they got the money. I mean, that's really what it was about.
I wonder, like, if not just being a horny old billionaire, was he trying to teach them a lesson about love is more important than money?
Could be it too.
But like, I think like he starts to fall for her, and eventually, that's why he continues to date her. Um, the funny thing is, Robert Redford had a body double for this film, and it was Randy West, who was a former porn star. Um, this film was actually originally supposed to be a Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman vehicle with Warren Beatty as the billionaire. Um, of course, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman did Eyes Wide Shut later in the 90s. Yeah, it's just to me, it's just like I don't know. Jen, would you sell me for $1 million for a night? Um,
I
you
mean,
know,
I'm not like. I guess it depends. It's hard to. I mean, when you say it like the way you just asked Jen, I mean that's like. Would you sell me Katie for Robert Redford? I mean, of course, like she would say no, but it's like such a because it's not happening. You
well,
know what I
no,
mean? Like if
no,
someone
it's not
literally
happening.
walked up to you and said, "You know what? I'll give you $1 million to blah 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 blah." $1 million in this time, I mean, back then they'd have to offer you 10 million because what isn't $1 million in 1992? Like how much is $1 million now in
I don't
19?
know.
So it'd have to be more than $1 million. It'd have to be whatever the inflation is on $1 million from 1993, which has to be 10, 20.
No, it's only worth 2.3.
Okay, so it's $2.3 million.
How much sex or human trafficking?
Sex or
Jen,
that was good.
Jen, you're funny. Yeah, I don't know. It's just to me the premise is like what the hell, but I do like the fact it has Seymour Castle in this film. Um,
So what you're saying then is that you would rather live in your car than you or your wife accepting $1 million for a stranger for one night. Now I will say that me and
Yes.
Katie, okay, well then that's because again, it depends on how far you're willing to go to get yourself out of the situation. You know what I mean? Like living in your car, and it also is your relationship too. If you're living in a car with your wife, is your relationship really good? Because you put yourself in the car to live with your wife.
Well, that's funny.
Awful.
No, funny that you said that.
Yes.
Because before we even aired today, I was talking to Jen. I'm like, I wonder if I could live in my car. That's what I was talking
hey, it's funny you should say that. It's literally hilarious that you should say that because I talk about that all the time with Katie. I'm like, if I just quit my job and we had to like live in
I'm gonna tell you something. Like Sam says, I'll take one for the team. For one, it's our jobs as husband and wife to try not to get to that point where we were okay. I understand that.
$2.2 million. $2.2 million ain't $200.
Two though, if that happens with there's something it can never go back to being the same.
Well, that's the second problem about it. You've got
So
to admit it. That couple, them two, had already problems before they accepted the whole entire
mhm.
kit and caboodle.
Yeah, so I mean,
But
if we ended Acme, like we're gonna split it and we're splitting up, then I mean, okay, I mean, we're not gonna be together, so it doesn't matter. But to continue after that, I don't know, I couldn't do that.
well, that's why at the end of the movie it was cheesy because they meet on the boardwalk or whatever after their lives have been torn apart, and they just like put their hands and they touch, and it's like, are you getting back together after all of this, or are you going to stay apart? Because the truth of the matter was, if I was Demi Moore, I never would have fucking came back. But that's just me. That's just because
I mean,
Woody
yeah,
Harrelson was a loser. I'm sorry. He was a loser. They didn't really have much, and he wasn't like he was some nice, loving guy at the. So I went with Redford. He wasn't rude.
Yeah,
But you're right.
but
It's a stupid story.
I'm just laughing at Sam's
Oh, I
cut.
know.
But Seymour Castle, who I was about to say, if you have, there's a movie with him in it. It's not a great movie, but his role is phenomenal, and that's Beer League. Have you ever seen Beer League?
Oh yeah, it's a good one.
Oh man, she might let me give it for Salma Hayek. I could talk big game, but I don't know if I could do that. I feel bad.
I feel bad.
Yeah. But Beer League, he plays this role of Dirt, an old man that's on the picture, and Tone. He has the best like one-liners in the whole film.
Oh, that's
You have
good.
to just watch the film just for him. He's
That's
the
good.
best part of the film. But yeah, crazy premise. I just laughed that you threw this film in there to
Try to mix it up here at the end.
for Robert Redford. Probably not his greatest film, but definitely not his worst film. He really doesn't have too many bad films, to be honest with you. But some little facts about Mr. Redford. His lifetime box office revenue is estimated about $2.56 billion in the US. That includes both leading and supporting roles across his career. He's won 2 Academy Awards, one for Best Actor and an honorary Oscar in 2002. And he was only nominated for The Sting in 1973 for Best Actor, which is ridiculous. He won a BAFTA Award in 1970 for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He has won 5 Golden Globes, including New York Star of the Year, Best Director, and for the Cecil B. DeMille Award in 1994. The Screen Actors Guild, he received the Screen Actors Guild Lifetime Achievement Award in 1995. His other honors include a Kennedy Center honoree in 2005, and he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2016 when that still meant something. Earlier in his career, he passed over The Graduate because director Mike Nichols thought he wasn't unbelievable as a loser in love. He fought hard to be cast in Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, which we explained earlier. Before fame, he played villains and edgy characters on the 1960s TV shows, including a serial killer and a Nazi. In 1971, this is a cool thing, he founded the Sundance Institute, later building the Sundance Film Festival into a premier showcase for independent cinema. Now, why this is big for Robert Redford is, of course, the Sundance Festival is named after his role as a Sundance Kid. He worked a lot with indigenous filmmakers, and he was really, really close with the Hopi tribe, to the point where he was actually ceremonially blessed by their leaders, and he was close with the Cheyenne. Robert Redford also he wore like a silver necklace that was given to him by his indigenous friends. Big on environmental issues. He was against drilling and fracking on native land. Very, very big in native rights. He also was one of the first people to push for independent native films to be made. In all honesty, without Robert Redford, there would be no smoke signals. He pushed for that film to be made, it made through the Sundance Festival, and that festival is still going on to this day. I mean, there's a Sundance channel, for God's sakes. Robert Redford was really, really instrumental in doing all this, and just for his love for film. Yeah, Jeremiah Johnson, we mentioned that film earlier. He was instrumental in producing All the King's Men, bringing the Watergate story to the big screen. He directed the Millargo Beanfield War, reflecting his interest in land, water, and social justice. One of Hollywood's earliest environmental activists, as I mentioned, he helped fight against coal plants and championed the Clean Air and Clean Water Acts. He stood with the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe in 2016 to protest against the Dakota Access Pipeline. He co-founded the Foundation to Protect Wild Horses, working with the Navajo Nation to prevent their slaughter. He created the Native American Film Lab and dedicated Sundance programs to indigenous filmmakers, like we mentioned, which again helped launch the film Smoke Signals. He produced the films Dark Wind and co-produced Dark Winds, both based on Navajo detective stories. Those films are really, really good. Sicker Clowns is a great Tony Hillerman. Those books are really good. I don't know if you've ever read them, Tone.
No,
They're with a Chief Inspector Leaphorn, is his name. Wes Studi does the films, the TV version, but the books are really, really good. I used to read those a lot. We're on basically they're not reservation crime stories, detective stories. And finally, he retired from acting in 2018 with The Old Men and the Gun, which Tony had mentioned, as his final leading role, followed by a brief appearance and cameo in Avengers Endgame, where he goes to try to get the Tesseract from Tony Stark. Great man, laid to rest at the age of 89. He lived a great life, great activist, and he will be missed, but his impact on film will always be felt and celebrated.
Awesome actor.
Yeah. Awesome human being in general.
Yeah, definitely.
So that concludes our Robert Redford show. We still got a couple things to announce before the Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week. But Tone, tell everybody what's going on the hookup, and you just made an appearance on the Getting Drafty pod.
Yes, this past week on the hookup, we talked a lot of awesome things. We talked the Devo documentary. Go back and check that out. And then on Tuesday, I was on It's Getting Drafty in here with Brian, and we picked out some of the greatest 80s albums of all time. That was really awesome. This next week on Thursday, on Wednesday, we have the James Bond show coming back with another episode with that. And then on Thursday, I believe I will have the next hookup on music, where I will be joined by he's sometimes on Twitter. His name's Beezy. He does a lot of he works for one of the I think it's the Southside Sox, I think it is, with a couple other guys. I'll get all that together by that time, but he's been on the show before, and we're going to do a 5-and-5 exchange of songs, and we're going to get into that. That's going to be exciting. What do you got coming up, my man?
Okay, so we had completed an episode for Frame, dealing with the Bad News Bears, comparing the older version with the newer version. We were going to record tomorrow, but Cotton is actually in Cincinnati enjoying his Cubbies versus the Reds. So we are going to be recording next week, and we will be doing the Hoss on Haunted Hill, the Vincent Price version, and the 1999 version that was released. So we'll be discussing those two films, kind of playing into the spooky season, which with that, I will announce what this video was coming up in October.
Hold on to your vomit bags. We're going to the movies. Frights, camera, action.
Talking to an artist. I sometimes do special things to my victims. Things that are creative. I'm Damien Cows.
And I'm the devil. Now kindly undo these straps.
It's back again in October. We are doing 31 Days of Horror over on the Sadistic Penguin Studios channel. So that means every day we will have a new horror film for a mini review, usually around 3 to 5 minutes long. throughout the whole month of October. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, or you can check us out at statisticpenguinstudios.com, where I will post the blogs and links to the YouTube. If you want to check out the old episodes, the playlists are up from 2022 all the way to last year's. Got some good films in the mix, some new and old ones. I try to mix it up every year. I know, Tony, I showed you my list. It's gonna be fun. I already got 15 pretty much done in the can. I'm gonna try and knock out the other 15 so I don't kill myself next month. Try and do them every day, like I was doing them before. So they're really, really fun for me to do. It's a lot of work, but a lot of fun to do.
Can't wait, my man. Great list so far. I mean, I've seen it, so it's all put together. So it's gonna be great.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So be sure to check that out for all the horror lovers in October. But with that, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. If you are listening, be sure to give us a review on your podcaster app, whether it be Apple or Spotify or wherever you get our podcast audioly. It just helps with the algorithm, good or bad. Anything feedback you give us, we will try to make the show better. It gets our podcast out to more ears and kind of branches out our audience, and we greatly appreciate it. But with that, Tone, let's close this up, man, with the Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week, my friend.
Let's do it.
The Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week.
All right, what do we got here tonight? We got the film soundtrack from the X-Files, from the movie, which, if you forgot when it came out in 1998. And I really enjoyed the movie a lot. The soundtrack itself, though, that came out June 2nd, so it was a summer release. But there's a lot of bands on this album. You got Filter doing a cover of Three Dog Nights 1, Tonic doing Flower Man. You got Foo Fighters doing Walking After You. It's also on the Color and Shape. You got Ween doing Beacon of Light, which is interesting because how did Ween make this soundtrack? I guess David Duchovny and Tia Leone, that's how they met, was their love over Ween, which I thought that was interesting. You got Sting and Aswad coming together for a cover of the Police song Invisible Sun. You got The Cure on here doing More Than This. You got X doing the Doors song Crystal Ship, which is interesting because Ray Manzarek produced X's debut album. So that's kind of cool. What I find interesting is you have Noel Gallagher from Oasis doing a song that, honestly, his track is what plays through the credits at the end, which is very, very interesting. It's a good soundtrack. It's got a lot of different stuff on it. You know, I mean, the Cure song, I was listening to it before we came on here. The Filter cover's pretty good. The Tonic song is rocking. It's not a bad soundtrack.
No, not a bad soundtrack and not a bad movie. Gillian Anderson, man, I saw her today. They had a clip of her, and man, she is still stunning. She's probably one of the reasons why I watched the X-Files so much, was because of her. But I think that Noel Gallagher song is like Teotihuacan or something.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it. I wasn't good. Yeah,
don't be
good
like
job.
me.
I give you credit. You tried tonight. Good job.
Yeah. But great movie, cool album. I forgot Filter did that cover of one.
Yeah, so did I actually before when I picked the soundtrack. That's my favorite part about doing this is I think of a soundtrack, and this one isn't one that's in my regular rotation, but already I've added a couple of these songs to my playlist because they're pretty good songs.
Yeah. Good pick, my man. Good pull. This was I didn't expect this one to come out like that. Good one. That's our show for tonight. Thank you all for listening and watching and messaging in the comments. Sam, Jenny, and with Tusis. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Thank you so much for going in and chatting in with the show. We are live every Friday at around 7:15 p.m. ish. Be sure to check out If you're in the Chicagoland area, our friends over at the All Sports Scene are having their 100th episode at the Romova Beer Garden on Thursday, the 25th. I believe it starts at 7 p.m. if I'm not mistaken. They have their own beer at the Romova released. A can of Whoop Ass, which I thought was hilarious. Go support the Ass Crew. They always support us. Sam Reeves was on our show for our 100th episode. I unfortunately can't make it because I have to work that night, but my wife is going. So hopefully, Tone, if you can get out of work, you can make it. Be sure to support the Ass Crew because we love their show and love that crew over there.
Definitely. Very a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. But with that, closing up shop, Tone, anything you want to tell everybody before we go?
Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you can do anything for us, just check out any one of those 10 Robert Redford films. You're going to have a good time.
Yep. With that, everybody have a good night, and we will see you next week.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to the At the Show podcast, a Sadistic Penguin Studios production.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?